If you drive a diesel, here's a hard truth. Most owners waste $1,200 to $2,500 every year on preventable wear, wasted fuel, and repairs that never needed to happen. Over 70% of major diesel failures, injectors, turbos, DPFS, are caused by habits and shortcuts drivers were never told about. And when they fail, the bill isn't hundreds, it's thousands. Mechanics see these failures coming long before they happen, but the fixes rarely get shared. Today, I'm breaking down 13 real diesel money-saving tricks mechanics use on their own diesel vehicles. And number 3 is the biggest wallet saver most drivers don't learn until it's too late. Trick number 13, avoid fuel tank extremes. Running a diesel near empty is one of the fastest ways to shorten the life of the entire fuel system, even if it only happens once in a while. High-pressure diesel fuel pumps don't just move fuel, they depend on it for cooling and lubrication. Industry durability testing and Society of Automotive Engineers fuel system studies show that pump temperatures can rise by 15 to 30% when fuel levels drop below roughly 1/4 of the tank. As fuel heats up, it aerates more easily, lubrication quality drops, and cavitation begins. Microscopic air bubbles collapsing inside the pump like tiny jackhammers. Modern common rail systems operate at 25,000 to 35,000 pounds per square inch, so even small lubrication losses cause rapid wear. That's how pumps score internally. Injectors get contaminated, and one low fuel habit turns into a no-start condition. Overfilling is just as damaging. Topping off can push liquid fuel into emissions components designed only for vapor. I've replaced evap parts, sensors, and purge systems simply because someone insisted on squeezing extra fuel in. When ignored, fuel system repairs add up fast. High-pressure pumps $1,500 to $4,000, injectors $2,000 to $6,000, plus flushing and labor. Keeping fuel in the safe middle range costs nothing, and it can save thousands by preventing failures that shut diesel engines down without warning. And once fuel quality is protected, the next system that fails usually isn't mechanical at all. It's chemical. Trick number 12. Fuel chemistry matters. Diesel additives aren't magic, but when you use the right ones at the right time, they can save you from some very expensive problems. Every winter, I see diesel trucks towed in with the same story. It ran fine yesterday. What usually happens is that the fuel starts to gel in cold weather. When that happens, wax forms in the fuel, plugs the filter, and the engine gets starved of fuel. That's where anti-gel additives come in. They lower the temperature at which diesel starts to wax, so fuel keeps flowing even on cold mornings. Then there's lubricity. Modern diesel fuel systems run at extremely high pressure, and they depend on the fuel itself to lubricate pumps and injectors. Additives that improve lubricity help reduce wear over time. Some additives also clean injectors, which helps with rough idle, smoke, and poor mileage when fuel quality isn't great. When this is ignored, the problems show up fast. Trucks won't start in the cold, injectors get noisy, fuel pumps wear out, and towing bills add up. Injectors alone can cost $2,000 to $6,000, plus $150 to $400 for a tow. Using the correct additive costs very little and can save thousands in one winter. But even perfect fuel won't help if the air entering your engine is dirty. Trick number 11, never ignore a dirty air filter. A clogged air filter is like asking a marathon runner to breathe through a straw, then blaming his lungs when he collapses. Diesel combustion needs clean airflow, and when the engine can't breathe, it compensates in expensive ways. Industry testing shows that a restricted air filter can reduce MPG by up to 10% and often increases soot production because combustion quality drops. More soot means more DPF loading and more regenerations, which burns extra fuel and raises exhaust heat. Restriction also forces the turbo to work harder to hit target boost, increasing bearing stress over time. I've seen trucks with DPF problems that were really air problems. Ignoring a dirty air filter can lead to DPF systems clogging sooner, sensors getting dirty, and turbos overspeeding as they try to compensate. DPF cleaning or replacement can cost $1,000 to $3,500, and turbo replacements often run $1,500 to $3,000. Meanwhile, a cleaning filter is cheap, and doing it on time can save hundreds a year in fuel while reducing the odds of a four-figure exhaust repair. Also, be careful with over-oiled filters. They can contaminate sensors and create drivability issues. You can do everything right, but if the cooling system isn't doing its job, the heater will usually be the first thing to tell you. Trick number 10. Cooling system speaks. When the heater in a diesel starts blowing weak or lukewarm air, it's usually not the heater that's failing. Most of the time, it's the engine giving you an early warning. I've seen many drivers replace blend doors, actuators, and even heater cores, only to find out later that the real problem was something simple. The coolant level was low. That small drop in coolant matters more in a diesel than people think. Coolant doesn't just stop the engine from overheating. Its real job is to carry heat away evenly. When the coolant is low or not flowing right, some parts of the engine get hotter than others. Those hot spots can slowly warp metal, weaken head gaskets, and damage seals. Diesels produce a lot of heat, especially when towing or driving long distances, and that heat must be controlled every minute the engine is running. When this is ignored, repairs become expensive fast. Head gaskets, EGR coolers, turbos, and heater cores can all take a hit. Overheating damage often starts around $2,000 to $5,000, and head gasket jobs can climb to $7,000 or more. The fix is simple. Check your coolant regularly and keep it at the proper level. It costs almost nothing and can save you thousands. And once heat is under control, the next problem usually starts with what's inside the engine, the oil. Trick number 9. Use the correct low viscosity approved oil. The wrong oil won't just cost you fuel. It can slowly grind your engine from the inside. I have seen cam lobes worn shiny smooth because the oil was too thick for the design, too thin without the right additives, or simply not diesel rated. It doesn't fail instantly. It wears everything quietly. Data matters here. Cold start research shows up to 50% of engine wear happens before the oil fully circulates and pressure stabilizes. That's why manufacturers specify certain viscosities and diesel approvals. The right oil can improve MPG by 2 to 3% by reducing internal drag, and it reaches critical parts faster during cold starts. Turbo bearings especially hate slow oil flow. When this gets ignored, the damage adds up quietly. Camshafts and bearings wear out faster, turbo parts start to fail, oil consumption goes up, and engine power slowly drops. At that point, you're no longer paying for oil changes. You're paying for repairs. Cam and valve train work can easily run $2,000 to $5,000, and a turbo replacement often costs $1,500 to $3,000, even before anything breaks. Using the wrong oil can waste $100 to $250 a year in extra fuel and unnecessary wear. But even with perfect oil, how you use the power determines whether your diesel lives relaxed or stressed. Trick number 8. Shift smart. Diesels love low RPM torque. Revving a diesel high is like sprinting a power lifter. Wrong speed, wrong job. This isn't opinion. It's how diesel engines are engineered. OEM torque curves published by Ford Power Stroke show peak torque between 1,400 and 1,900 RPM on most light-duty diesels. That same range is also where brake-specific fuel consumption testing shows diesels operate most efficiently. According to SAE engine efficiency studies, running above the torque band increases fuel injection events per minute without producing usable power. That raises exhaust gas temperatures, increases turboshaft speed, and accelerates soot formation, especially under load. On the other side, lugging the engine below the torque band creates excessive cylinder pressure, which increases bearing stress and particulate output. When drivers ignore this balance, the failure pattern is predictable. Turbos overspeed, EGTs climb, DPF loading increases, and long-term wear shows up early. Turbo replacements typically run $1,500 to $3,500, while DPF service or replacement often costs $1,000 to $2,500 plus. Fleet efficiency reports show that drivers trained to operate within the torque yoke band routinely see 5 to 10% fuel economy improvements, which can translate into hundreds of dollars per year depending on mileage. Thanks for sticking with me. Most drivers never learn this stuff, so you're already way ahead, and we're just getting started. If you're finding this helpful, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss the next trip. They will make the biggest difference in keeping your diesel engine running right. Let's keep going. Trick number 7. Don't ignore exhaust leaks before the turbo. Small exhaust leaks before the turbo are one of the most overlooked diesel money killers. I see this all the time. A cracked exhaust manifold, leaking gasket, or loose flange that doesn't sound that bad, so the driver keeps going. The problem is, on a diesel, even a small exhaust leak before the turbo throws off everything downstream. Here's why it matters. The turbo relies on exhaust pressure to spool correctly. When exhaust leaks out before it reaches the turbo, boost drops, spool time increases, and the engine compensates by adding more fuel. That means worse mileage, higher exhaust temperatures, more soot, and extra strain on the turbo and DPF system. Many drivers chase low power, smoke, or poor MPG without realizing the root cause is a leak they can hear. When ignored, the costs stack up fast. Exhaust manifolds and gaskets are relatively affordable compared to what follows. Turbo replacements often run $1,500 to $3,500. And DPF issues caused by excess soot can add $1,000 to $3,000 more. Fixing a leak early can cost a fraction of that and restore power and efficiency immediately. The habit is simple. If you hear a tick, hiss, or exhaust smell under the hood, don't wait. Catching exhaust leaks early protects the turbo, improves mileage, and prevents a chain reaction of expensive diesel problems. Fixing exhaust leaks restores power and efficiency, but how you drive decides how much of that power you actually keep. Trick number 6. Anticipate traffic like a pro. Every time you slam the brakes, you're throwing fuel out the window. You just don't see it. Data from driving studies shows aggressive driving can cut MPG by 20 to 30%. And I can spot those drivers instantly by worn brakes and mystery mileage complaints. Smooth momentum saves fuel by keeping throttle changes small and predictable. Every hard acceleration demands more injection, and every hard stop wastes that energy as heat. Plus, it shocks the driveline, loads the transmission, and increases turbo cycling. In a diesel, that constant up and down also tends to increase soot output, which can mean more frequent DPF regions. When ignored, brakes wear faster, driveline components take more stress, and fuel costs quietly climb. A brake job can run $600 to $1,200. And if the driving style is brutal long-term, transmission wear can become a $3,000 to $6,000 problem. The habit is simple. Look farther ahead, leave a bigger gap, and stop racing to red lights. Many drivers can save up to $300 to $800 per year in fuel and wear depending on mileage. But even perfect traffic habits won't help if your car is fighting the wind like it's towing a parachute. Trick number 5. Remove the roof rack. A roof rack might look tough until you realize it's basically a parachute strapped to your fuel economy. Testing and real-world measurements show roof racks can cut highway MPG by 10 to 20%, even when empty, because aerodynamic drag rises fast as speed climbs. And diesels feel it hard because they're efficient cruisers, until airflow resistance forces extra throttle. Here's the chain reaction. More drag means more sustained engine load, higher turbo work, and higher fuel burn just to hold the same speed. That's why someone can swear, nothing changed, while the truck is literally working harder every mile. What fails when ignored? Mostly your wallet, but sustained extra load also increases heat and stress over time. Fuel loss alone can run $200 to $600 per year, depending on how much highway driving you do. Removing a rack costs nothing, and often feels like you gained power because the engine isn't fighting turbulence anymore. If you only need it on weekends, treat it like a tool. Install it when needed, remove it when you don't. Trick number 4. Warm up gently. If you rev your diesel hard when it's cold, you're basically punching dry metal with a steel hammer. Research often cited in engine wear discussions indicates that a large portion of wear occurs during warm-up, and cold oil can flow 30 to 50% more slowly than at operating temperature. Turbochargers hate that because their bearings need fast oil flow before the boost hits. When you mash the throttle cold, the turbo spools quickly, but the oil hasn't fully reached the tight clearances that need cushioning. That's how you scar bearings and shorten turbo life without any dramatic warning. Until you start hearing whine, seeing smoke, or losing boost. What fails when ignored? Turbo bearings and seals, and sometimes injectors, from cold overfueling habits. Turbo replacement typically runs $1,500 to $3,000, and downtime costs hurt too. The money-saving habit is simple. Start it, let it settle briefly, then drive gently until temps rise. Avoid heavy boost and towing until warm. That one routine can save thousands by preventing a failure you never saw coming. And once the engine is warm and stable, there's a tool that keeps your fuel use steady without you even trying. Trick number 3. Cruise control, your silent fuel bodyguard. If your speed is bouncing up and down, so is your fuel bill. And cruise control stops that roller coaster. Studies show cruise control can improve highway fuel economy by 5 to 10% by preventing constant throttle corrections. On long stretches, it keeps injector duty steadier and makes turbo load changes less chaotic. Diesels burn more fuel when RPM constantly rise and fall. Every little hill becomes a mini acceleration event, meaning extra injection, extra turbo work, and extra consumption. Cruise control smooths those fluctuations and keeps the engine operating in a more stable efficiency zone. Ignoring it usually breaks nothing instantly, but long-term wear increases because driveline load swings are harsher and your fuel costs quietly climb. Many drivers can save $150 to $450 a year, depending on mileage and fuel prices, simply by keeping their speed steady where it makes sense. It's a low-effort habit that makes the truck feel calmer and more efficient. But the biggest waste isn't always on the road. Sometimes it happens while you're sitting still. Trick number 2. Stop idling. Your diesel isn't a power plant. Every hour your diesel sits idling, it's burning fuel and wearing itself out for free. Typical diesel idle consumption is about 0.13 to 0.26 gallons per hour, roughly 0.5 to 1.0 liters. And many fleet maintenance programs treat 1 hour of idling as equivalent to roughly 30 to 50 miles of engine wear. That's why I've seen trucks with low mileage but high engine hours that look worn out early. Idling builds soot, loads your DPF, and creates conditions where combustion isn't as clean, especially in cold weather. It can also contribute to cylinder wash, where fuel and moisture don't behave the way they should. Then you get more regions, more fuel burned, and more wear. When ignored, DPF systems clog sooner, injectors foul faster, and downtime starts showing up. Cutting even 30 minutes a day can save $250 to $400 per year in fuel alone for many drivers, plus reduce the risk of $1,000 to $3,000 DPF-related costs. Shut it down when practical and let miles, not idle hours, be what your engine lives on. And once you stop wasting fuel at a standstill, the next habit comes from something touching the ground every single second you drive. Trick number 1. Maintain correct tire pressure. Underinflated tires are like dragging sandbags. Data shows underinflation can cost up to 3% MPG, and tire life can drop by 25% or more because the tread wears unevenly and the sidewall flexes hotter than it should. Low pressure also increases rolling resistance, forcing the engine to work harder just to move the same weight at the same speed. I see it constantly. Shoulders worn out early, handling that feels floaty, and drivers shocked that tires didn't last. And it's not just tires. Poor pressure can hurt braking and stability, especially on wet roads, because the tire isn't holding its shape under load. What fails when ignored? Tires first, then alignment and suspension stress over time. A set of tires can easily run $600 to $1,200, and the extra fuel burn can add another $150 to $500 per year depending on mileage. The fix is boring but powerful. Check monthly and with temperature swings because pressure changes with the weather. Correct inflation improves MPG, safety, and tread life, and it's one of the few habits that pays you back every mile.